Welcome everybody. This is a part of my Blender series where I just simply make something in front of your eyes in Blender. In this tutorial we're going to make a lamp here. So you want to go to File, New, and create a new file, and you get this nice little cube here. I'm going to go push X and delete, and we're going to be making another cube. What we want to do is we want to create a simple cylinder and move it up here. Let's scale this down quite a bit, so we're going to make this really small because this is going to be the shaft of the light here. And you can do two things. You can push scale and you can add in Z, and you can make it longer or shorter, whatever you want here. I'm actually going to undo that here. I'm going to scale it down again. But what I like to do is I like to tab into edit mode. And so click on this here and select face select, and then move up the faces accordingly like this. All right, there we go. I'm just going to undo that down here too. And I want to make sure it's just that right there. Okay, now with all of my tutorials here, what I like to do is I like to make these models for interactive environments. And the reason why I like to make them for interactive environments is, well, I make games, etc. But when you do this, you want to make sure that your models are as not detailed as possible, just because the more detail, the harder it can be to actually to make your game or whatnot. So I'm going to push E to extrude here. And now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to hop into edge select, and I'm going to select this here. And what we can do is we can actually select all of the edges like this, or we can just simply select all the faces here. And it might be a little bit time consuming, but just kind of move around and do that here. Just like that. And just move it around, just so that the whole bottom is checked here. Just like that. Okay, and of course we need the bottom here as well. And now that we have everything, we can simply put a scale, and it seems like there is a scale just like that here. And we might actually need to make a whole other, we're going to need to make a whole other loop here. So what we'll need to do is go to Tools, Loop Cut, and what we'll do is we'll just actually make a loop cut in there. Okay, and what this does is that this now, this makes it so that we can actually scale this so that we can, so it doesn't look like it's one gigantic scale there. All right, so we'll just simply select all this here. All right, just like that. Dun, dun, dun. And then push E to extrude, and just S to scale, and then we want to scale it, and then if you scale it on the y-axis it doesn't necessarily work. So what we'll do is we'll just push S, and then we'll just have to deal with this for a quick second here. Alright, and so there's going to be the bottom here. Now you could technically leave this if you really wanted to, but I'm actually going to make it a little bit bigger. And what I'll do is I'll select the all of this up top here, and you can just simply select it like that. And yeah, there we go. And we'll just simply move it down. More like that. Alright. Technically we can even make it more like this, and actually that looks kind of cool. Now one of the things is that if we have this up here or we have it down here like this, it's not going to affect, it's definitely not going to affect the vertice count. So whatever you can do, whatever looks cool. And there we go. We have a nice little base there. Now let's look at the top here. What we're going to do is let's push 7, because that selects everything here. And let's tab let's simply tab out of edit mode into object mode, and let's create a cube. Okay, now this here, you might think is a little bit, I'm going to scale this down by pushing S, by the way, is a little bit of a cop-out in terms of what we're going to do. But let's hop back, tab into edit mode. And by the way, you do need to make sure that you do go to object mode first. Otherwise, this object will be combined with this object here. Okay, so we're just going to go ahead and do that. And that, believe it or not, is a lamp. And you can actually go to several furniture sites and you'll see lamps like this. Now, let's just talk a bit about why this is so awesome here. This is a cool looking lamp that you could in theory see in kind of a modern environment. And the best part is that it's not super high poly. So you could probably have, 5 to 10 of these in a scene, and not only would A look cool, but it would be very cost effective. Now, if we really want to expand upon this, we can subdivide this top here. And if we really wanted to, we could select this middle vertice and just bring it down a bit. Okay, and that way, now if we bring this down here and we're in our game engine, we could just put a light in there, and the surrounding bits would create a shadow. If you wanted to do that, you don't have to do that necessarily, but there we go. Now I'm just going to tab out into edit mode and object mode. The other reason why we have two different objects here is because these are going to require two different materials within any kind of engine, even within Blender here. So we could add a metallic texture to this one here, or we could add in kind of like a cloth or some other kind of texture here. All right, I'll see you guys in the next tutorial.